And welcome back to another daily devotion. I am Pastor Roy here at Woodlawn Christian Church in Lake City, Iowa, and this devotion is for Wednesday, February 7th of 2024. We are in the Gospel of Mark. If you've been following along, you know that, and if you're new here, welcome. But we're in the 8th chapter. We made it to chapter 8. We're in verses 22 to 26. The entirety of Mark is talking about people not quite getting it, specifically the disciples, but others as well, not quite understanding what's going on. They're blind, if you will, and coincidentally, today we come to a story about Jesus curing a blind man near Bethsaida. So, without further ado, let's jump into it, and then we'll talk about it some more. Mark's Gospel, chapter 8, verses 22 to 26. And they came to Bethsaida, and some people brought to him a blind man, and begged him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, and led him out of the village. And when he had spit on his eyes, and laid his hands upon him, he asked him, "Do you see anything?" And he looked up and said, "I see men, but they look like trees walking." Then again he laid his hands upon his eyes, and he looked intently, and was restored, and saw everything clearly. And he sent him away to his home, saying, "Do not even enter the village." Okay, and again, Jesus is telling people not to go and tell anybody about something, which is going to kind of parallel what's going to go on at the end of Mark, but we'll get back to that later. But here, as I said, pretty much the entirety of Mark is about nobody quite getting the point, and none more so than the disciples. But here we have this blind man that's been brought to him. It doesn't say whether he's been was blind at birth or not. There's a big debate about that, because if he wasn't blind, if he was born blind, how would he know what trees look like? I think that's kind of silly to belabor that. But I do have a lot of empathy for these stories of healing of blindness, because when I was in middle school, I had a injury to both of my eyes that resulted in having an ulceration on my corneas, and I was well past the point of being legally blind. Very much like this story, if somebody were to come into the room, and when they would come into the room when I was in the hospital, I would just see a blur there. There was just this grayish, whatever, maybe some color there, but I just remember it being more grayish, of the person being there. And I couldn't begin to discern who it would be. There was no features. It was just a blob. And so I'm very much can empathize for that. I also can empathize because I am slowly losing my eyesight because of macular degeneration. And I'm sadly aware that that day may come back again, that I was like in middle school, where I just basically can't see anything anymore. And I don't look forward to that day. None of us would. We want to see clearly. We want to see Jesus clearly. But of course, the metaphor of sight here is not about sight with your optical nerve. It's sight with your spirit here. It's how you sense Jesus, that you know he is the Lord. Here, though, Jesus takes him by the hand, and he does something. Why does he take him out of the village? This is kind of a strange story. And again, he does this what looks to us to be offensive thing of spitting in his face. What culture is there where spitting in someone's face is polite or appropriate? And he touches his eyes. But the first time he does so, the man again doesn't see. He sees things very unclearly. And then Jesus does it again, and then he sees clearly. Then it works. It takes. And this is something I think we can apply to our own selves in a couple of ways. First of all, we are doing the Lord's work, and when we deal with someone, it doesn't always take, does it? Sometimes you have to witness to someone many, many times. And conversely, when we have been witnessed to, I know that for myself, it took a lot of different encounters with the Lord before I could see clearly. And that's really, but we don't get ourselves down, and don't get ourselves down when we're dealing with other folks ourselves and showing them, preaching to them and teaching to them, and they just don't get it. Don't let yourself become disheartened about that, downtread about it. The Lord will work through you, through me, through all of us. But sometimes it takes a few hits. It takes a few takes a few times to hear the word, to encounter the Lord before your heart is converted, before you see clearly. Now here, that's just 2 times that Jesus is dealing with touching the man. And it's, again, here, blindness to the deaf mute man. He touched him, spit in his ears and all that, or spit on his tongue, I guess, but his fingers and ears, spit on his, and touched his tongue with spit. Must be something powerful about this battle of Christ. But at any rate, it takes a few times sometimes. Don't get down about that. Don't let yourself get depressed. And at the same time, don't beat yourself up that it took you a long time to come around to Christ. Again, myself, it started with my ex-wife, and went on from there. And it wasn't until, truly wasn't saved until well into my 30s. So don't give up, and don't beat yourself up over it if you took just as long or longer than myself. All right, I think that's all I've got for you today. We're going to talk about Peter's declaration about Jesus tomorrow. Who are you? Do they see clearly or not? We'll find out. More to come tomorrow. Have a blessed day. If you enjoy these devotions, please like and subscribe. Come on back again. Share them. All that. Make kind comments. We appreciate it. God bless. God loves you. Be a blessing to someone today.